Oral questions by members.
Leader of the Official Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, private sector investment is down, youth unemployment is up, corporate tax revenue is down. Will this government admit that their economic agenda has been a total failure?
Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. It's without question that we have been through economic challenges, and this has been the case globally. That is all the reason it's so important that we continue to be deeply focused on economic growth, Honourable Speaker, and that is the focus of this government. You've seen us identify projects that we can accelerate and pull through. This is a time when it's about building our province stronger, facing the threats that we're seeing globally, and I welcome the opposition to join us in this important work.
Leader of the Official Opposition, supplemental.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Look, business confidence is down, food bank usage is up, hope for the future from BC is down, with close to half of the youth wanting to leave British Columbia. And quite frankly, after 8 years of dismal failure, the Premier's response is to trust us. But even First Nation leaders see through the Premier and are calling him, and I quote, a snake oil salesman, end quote.
Member, we should not be using words even used by the other party inside the House because it's still unparliamentary language.
I'll take your direction. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given, quite frankly, this dismal record, and it's the 8 years that has built up the challenges that we face today, why would anybody trust this Premier with additional powers from this legislature?
Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our province has been through tough times without question, and we, every step of the way, have stood up for British Columbians. We stood up for British Columbians through the pandemic and took care of them better than any other province, Honourable Speaker. We stood up for British Columbians on the aftermath of that, when we saw inflation, when we saw supply chain challenges, all of that. We continued to stand up for British Columbians.
Members.
And, Honourable Speaker, we know the other side would take different choices. We will continue to fight for British Columbians. This moment in time, our Premier is showing incredible leadership and showing us how British Columbia can become the absolute economic engine for Canada. That is the leadership. That is the leadership that we are seeing from our Prime Minister, our Premier right now to the Prime Minister, our Premier right now to the tables he sits at. We are opening doors for businesses. We are opening doors for investments all the time while we're standing up for British Columbians, and we will continue to lead.
Members, you will remember our parents always taught us not to disrupt others when somebody else is speaking. Member for Kelowna Mission.
Mr. Speaker, leadership, choices, opening doors. Prime Minister Carney and his new Liberal government have said that Canada's economic strength is underpinned by Canadian energy, and that Canada has tremendous opportunity to be the world's leading energy superpower in both clean and conventional energy. But the Premier seems to have a different position on oil pipelines, depending on who he's talking to. At the Western Premiers Conference, he agreed that, quote, Western Premiers are committed to developing economic corridors to facilitate the free flow of trade, including access to tidewater. But right after the meeting, he was quoted as saying, no, we're opposed to pipelines. So which is it? Does the Premier support pipelines to tidewater or not?
Minister of Energy.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And in their questions today, the opposition is asking questions about economic growth and economic development in BC.
Members, let's not be too cheeky about this. It's a serious question. Members, it's a serious question. Let's hear the minister's answer. Minister.
Well, thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, in February, the Premier identified 18 priority projects for BC. The opposition is against at least 11 of them, Honourable Speaker. In British Columbia, we've been promoting focused on issues of community support, of community benefits, of worker benefits, of climate change, and of First Nations benefits, LNG projects, Honourable Speaker. Now, the member was a Liberal activist, I think, for a decade before he converted, Honourable Speaker, and he'll know how successful his party was in campaigning on LNG, Honourable Speaker. They're very successful in campaigning on LNG. They didn't deliver any LNG projects, a big zero, Honourable Speaker. Our approach, Honourable Speaker, is different. We have focused on the interests of British Columbia and delivered so far, under construction, 3 LNG projects worth a capex of $42 billion. And, Honourable Speaker, we are currently working with the province of Alberta together to focus on our joint priorities of an intertie between BC and Alberta.
Minister.
Honourable Speaker, the member talks about projects that don't yet exist, Honourable Speaker, and we will take action on projects that don't exist, Honourable Speaker, when they exist.
Member has supplemental.
I'm glad that the minister brought up projects that exist. I also would note that he completely evaded the question, how can British Columbians expect to get a straight answer or any leadership from this government when the NDP caucus is so clearly divided and at war with their own base? The Premier and the Energy Minister have said they fully support dredging Burrard Inlet for oil tankers. That's a real project. But when I asked the Minister of Jobs, Economic Development and Innovation whether she supported it in estimates, she would not say if she agrees. At least 6 NDP cabinet ministers built their political careers on opposing pipelines. Will any of those MLAs now stand up and confirm their support for dredging Burrard Inlet for oil tankers, or will they all hide behind cabinet solidarity and hope the media doesn't ask them? Will the Attorney General stand up? Will the Minister of Infrastructure stand up? Will the Minister of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation stand up? Will the Minister of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness stand up? Will the Minister of State for Local Government and Rural Communities stand up? Or will the Minister of Energy stand up again and give another non-answer?
Minister of Energy.
The position of the government is clear on this matter. And we had a debate and estimate. Honourable Speaker, you know, I appreciate, and we'll move on to the question of divided caucuses in a moment, Honourable Speaker. But clearly and straightforwardly, the Premier and I have said on this federal proposal to dredge Burrard Inlet that we built this pipeline. We built it for, as the member will note, $34 billion, Honourable Speaker. This country built it. That the revenues from the pipeline pay for about 50% of the cost of the pipeline, 50%, which is unlike any other pipeline in the world. So it's truly our pipeline, paid for in large measure by taxpayers everywhere in the country. It's our position, Honourable Speaker, that it's built and that it should be used fully. And that's why we have been supported, consistent with federal environmental law and fisheries and oceans regulation and everything else. We've been supportive of the project because we think people should get full value for it. But Honourable Speaker, you know, I used to be sitting in this house just down the way. Last week, the opposition called for a general election. We know why they want a general election, my Speaker. It's the worst kept secret. It's the worst kept secret in Victoria, Honourable Speaker, that Conservative caucus meetings are like scenes out of Rollerball, Honourable Speaker. And
Thank you.
so
Thank you.
we understand,
Thank
Honourable
you, Mr.
Speaker, why they want a general election, Honourable
Thank
Speaker, because it gives them an opportunity not to be together for 28 days, Honourable Speaker. All I can say is that you all just get along.
Leader of the third party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Nice to be on topic for a change. Our discussions about securing new energy sources for the energy transition have included a focus on free market competition and a level playing field. But for decades, BC taxpayers have been subsidizing the oil and gas industry in BC. In 2022, the province announced a transition to a new oil and gas royalty system with the goal of collecting 50% of profits after production costs. We know the new royalty transition period has been extended by another 2 years. My question is to the Minister of Energy and Climate Solutions. Following this delay in the new framework, can the Minister confirm if the intention is still to secure 50% of profits from oil and gas producers so that British Columbians are assured to receive a fair share of profits from these publicly owned energy resources?
Minister of Energy.
It's consistently the position of the government to maximize the return to the people of British Columbia, as it's the position of other provinces. It's one of the reasons why we're working closely with the province of Alberta on joint initiatives to ensure that we act together in this country on energy initiatives to the maximum degree possible to maximize the return. That's not the only step. We are proceeding with our royalty changes, Honourable Speaker, and working closely with the community, with First Nations people, and with industry. We're proceeding, Honourable Speaker, with our advancement of the Healer program. We're proceeding, Honourable Speaker, to maximize the return to communities, and we're proceeding to address issues of climate change. And I am proud, and I want to acknowledge the role of the oil and gas industry in the reduction of methane emissions, which makes our LNG the lowest emission LNG in the world. We do it because we are electrifying LNG projects such as Cedar in Kitimat, and we are also, Honourable Speaker, taking actions to reduce emissions, a 42% reduction since 2015, and we're going for 75% by 2030.
Member supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When it comes to the future of our energy security, we can't miss this opportunity to empower individuals and communities to take part in the calls for power and gain energy independence. Net metering programs allow individuals to generate their own renewable electricity and sell it back to the grid in exchange for credits. But BC Hydro is currently proposing changes to this program that drastically undervalue small-scale renewable energy and locks in inequity for decades to come. Proposed changes from BC Hydro for fixed-rate billing instead of net metering would remove any benefit to individuals and communities, ultimately weakening BC's energy security. The question again to the Minister of Energy, can the Minister ensure that net metering remains viable in this province, and will he provide the necessary long-term policy protection that small-scale energy projects need to survive?
Minister.
I think this is an extraordinary period of opportunity in renewable energy in BC, both for First Nations, and the member will know that in the recent call for power, we have 10 projects, 9 of which are 51% owned by First Nations, and 1 of which is 49% owned. That means returns from energy projects that help the climate and energize BC that return to communities. Equally, the member is criticizing BC Hydro programs that have been established in recent years that give opportunities to homeowners to participate as well. We see a full energy program as doing all of these things, as having opportunity to fuel BC's economy. And that's why we're proposing, for example, a second call for power. That's why we're proposing a call for expression of interest on firm power. That's why we're proposing a call for expression of interest on issues of conservation, which focus on affordability for people in the community, Honourable Speaker. We believe in clean energy in this House. We believe in clean energy in this province. We see it as fueling the economy in BC in communities with programs that support homeowners and fuel communities with projects that create jobs and build our province. I'm very proud of our record, and we're going to continue to do that.
Member for Langley Abbotsford.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. First, it was the dump truck operators who weren't getting paid on the Highway 1 project. Now, Mainland Sand and Gravel, one of the largest aggregate suppliers in the Lower Mainland, is owed $1.74 million on a ministry job. This isn't a minor delay. This is a ministry job that's behind on payments to a key supplier in BC's construction sector. If companies like Mainland start refusing to supply materials for ministry projects because they can't trust they'll get paid, what happens to our infrastructure timelines then? My question to the minister, how does this government expect to deliver major infrastructure projects on time, on budget, when even its most critical suppliers are left waiting for millions of dollars?
Minister of Transportation.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I appreciate the question from the member. I want to assure the member of two things. One, suppliers do get paid. They always get paid. The province pays its bills. Second, in terms of building infrastructure projects, the record of this government is unparalleled when it comes to investing in our communities right across the province. Oh my God, he says not a single project. $5.9 billion SkyTrain project, Surrey to Langley, Honourable Speaker. 16 kilometres of track, Honourable Speaker, 8 stations. It's going to make it easier to get from Langley City to Surrey Centre in 22 minutes, to Vancouver in under an hour, Honourable Speaker. That's investment, Honourable Speaker.
Member for Langley Abbotsford. Members. Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Later this year, a brand new 4-lane Patella Bridge, almost twice the size of the existing one, Honourable Speaker, that's going to make it easier. It's going to make it easier for vehicle traffic between Surrey and New Westminster, spurring economic growth, Honourable Speaker. And I can tell you, we are going to make investments like that right across this province, building communities, building the economy, training the next generation of provinces, because we have faith in this community, Honourable Speaker. They vote against these things every single time, and guess what? That's why we're here and they're over there.
Member for Peace River South.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to my honoured colleagues, which I genuinely and honestly appreciate spending time with. My question is with respect to economic diversification. Exports from British Columbia to Asian markets are down significantly, which coincides with the closure of our 13 freestanding Asian trade offices. This government's dismal economic record requires the Premier to go on a damage control junket to Asia this week. Does the Premier really think that a junket makes up for the damage done by closing these independent trade offices?
Minister of Jobs and Economic Development.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you, Member Opposite, for the opportunity to once again correct the misinformation about our trade offices. It is inaccurate. We have kept and opened even new trade offices in Mexico, Taiwan, Vietnam, and in fact has seen exports up in multiple markets. We have over 50 trade and invest officers in over 14 different markets that are working every day to increase our trade opportunities for BC businesses, and in fact have trade and invest officers bringing investors to Web Summit this week in Vancouver. We continue to see really important opportunities for BC businesses in markets around the world. The reason we're going on the Asia mission is because opportunities with Japan and Malaysia and Korea are up, and those businesses are really interested in attending that trade mission and joining us to increase our trade with Japan, which is one of our largest trade partners.
Thank you. Member for Prince George, North Caribou.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. British Columbia forest companies have been investing in the last 8 years. The only problem is that they've been investing most of that money into the United States markets. This government has done nothing to attract and retain significant forestry investment in British Columbia. Now, we can understand the need to protect the film industry. But however, forest workers want to know why their industry did not get similar or the same support in this year's budget. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Forests.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Mr. Speaker. What an opportunity to be able to stand in the House and talk about our forest sector here in British Columbia that has grown our economy, grown British Columbia for the last 100 years and will be for the next 100 years, and to be able to share with the members opposite last week where we had some really good news. Gorman Brothers investing $120 million to purchase the operation, the Weyerhaeuser operation in Princeton. I don't know about you, but that delivers good news for forest sector workers in Princeton and the Okanagan. Now, Mr. Speaker, I have been dying to get a question in this House on forestry because it provides me an opportunity to respond directly to the Leader of the Opposition. I sent him a letter last month asking him to clarify comments made by his MLA from North Island. His MLA referred to First Nations buying tenure as being greedy, absolutely reprehensible. I sent him a letter. He can duck, he can dodge, but will the MLA from North Island have the courage to stand up in this House and ask me a question on forestry after she, in her own community, referred to her own nations as being greedy for buying tenure and supporting their forest service?
Member for Prince George Mackenzie.
When this government took office in 2017, the youth unemployment rate was 7%. Today, after 8 years of economic mismanagement, it's doubled, 14%. That's 60,000 people looking for work and finding nothing. They're losing hope and they're packing their bags to Alberta. How long will this Premier ignore an entire generation struggling to find opportunity? And when will he deliver a real economic plan for young people in this province?
Minister of Jobs and Economic Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And first, I want to say I know how hard it is for youth to get that first job, that first opportunity, and we do have programs for youth wanting to access the job market. But it's also important to recognize youth unemployment is up everywhere, and BC has been leading the country around in employment. We bucked the trend in the last jobs announcements for the past few months, including in manufacturing, which was down across the country, but still up in BC. It's because our government has been at the table with our Youth in Manufacturing Jobs program, with our Manufacturing Jobs Fund, leveraging investment 7-to-1 in our Manufacturing Jobs Fund to bring investment and jobs here to BC. We've been bucking some of the transnational jobs. We have still continued to be below the national average in unemployment, but there's a lot more to do, Honourable Speaker, for us to continue to be at the table to see those jobs and investment dollars here in BC so that we can keep our employment, our young people working.
Member for Columbia River Revelstoke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Joffrey Lakes isn't just a provincial park. It's a major tourism draw that supports small businesses in communities like Pemberton and Whistler. According to the BC Parks website, it is supposed to be open, and I quote, year-round. This is most certainly not the case. This government is allowing a public park to be closed to the public for nearly 1/3 of the year. Can this government communicate to businesses and the public today how long Joffrey Lakes Park will be closed moving forward?
Member for Environment? Member for Environment.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the member for this question. I think it's really important that we have very clear direction and answers, particularly when it comes to our BC parks. So many people absolutely love getting out into BC parks, and we are working hard to make sure that we have the best experience available for those people that are hiking and walking and taking part. We are working hand in hand on conservation and reconciliation. We are working with Joffrey Lakes, BC Park staff. There's one trail in, Mr. Speaker, and one trail out. And when the park was established, we needed to make sure that we had visitor safety as one of the biggest things. There's a very narrow road that goes to Joffrey Lake, and previously we saw up to 2,000 visitors a day parking on the side of the highway and not making it a safety risk for others. So we're working directly with BC Parks, we're working directly with our First Nations partners and ensuring that it's the best experience. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Chilliwack North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Des Sumang runs Alpine Refrigeration in Chilliwack, surrounded by shelters, supportive housing, and an overdose prevention site. Every day, he and his neighboring businesses, Simpson Autos, Camp River Woodworking, Pete and Sons Plumbing, and the Bottle Depot, clean up needles, garbage, and human excrement. Clients are afraid to get out of their cars. No one feels safe. When will this government stop enabling open drug use and trafficking and start supporting the small businesses that drive our economy?
Minister of Housing.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. First off, Honourable Speaker, I have to correct the member. Nobody's encouraging open drug trafficking. The member has false information here. I think the member should retract that comment, Honourable Speaker. The member should retract that comment. But, Honourable Speaker, I'm not sure where the opposition is. I'm not sure where the BC Conservatives are. Sometimes I hear from them that we need more housing for vulnerable people. Then a next question period, we hear from them about how we shouldn't have it. Sometimes we hear we need more resources. Sometimes they say it's too many resources in one area, Honourable Speaker. They can't get their story right. Honourable Speaker, there are vulnerable people from the community that need support. I know they used to have an MLA that was a champion for not only the community, but making sure that all voices were heard. Perhaps that's not there now. Perhaps this member cares very little on how vulnerable people are treated and where they go, Honourable Speaker. We're going to continue to support community. We're going to continue to work with local government. We're going to continue to work. We're going to continue to work to ensure that all people have the.
Members, enough. Minister.
Honourable Speaker, I hear from this House how many people are members of believe in faith, and but when it comes to the most vulnerable people, I don't hear that. I don't hear that back in the question, Honourable Speaker. We're going to continue to support vulnerable people, Honourable Speaker, in every community in this province. We're going to continue to make historic investments because we know these people deserve a roof over their heads.
Member for Kamloops Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, back in the day when someone would roll into town and try to sell people a bill of goods on a product or an item and it was totally way overinflated, there was a certain expression used for that person. Apparently that's unparliamentary. I won't use it in this chamber, but it seems to be very fitting for this government today, Mr. Speaker, because that's exactly what we've been hearing. We're pointing out that business confidence is down. The government tries to pretend it's not. Food bank usage is at record highs. The government tries to pretend it's not. The hope for the future by all polling is down in BC. All youth groups are saying that. Youth unemployment is at record levels. It's not our problem because it's down in other places too. Well, youth in British Columbia want it addressed in British Columbia. They're not worried about other jurisdictions. Corporate tax revenues are down, but not to hear it from this government, even though it's in their own budget document. They'll try to dodge and deny that. And then only this government could stand up and praise and crow about what they are building in infrastructure when every single project that was listed by the minister is behind schedule and over budget. That's the crowning glory for this government. Over schedule or behind schedule, over budget.
The economic agenda is completely broken. It's a complete failure. This government has lost the plot line completely. Yes, you know what, Mr. Speaker? We would love to have an election. You know why we would love to have an election? Because then they could be on this side of the House and we'd be on that side of the House. When will the Premier put his money where his mouth is, stop being a fly-by-night salesperson blown into town, and just call the election already instead of having all these games around Bill 15 and
14? Members, now the question has been asked. I really urge all members to be quiet now and listen to the answer. Government House Leader.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Well, I'm going to start off by saying this. Honourable Member, in your dreams. Because, Honourable Speaker, 4 years from now, when we do go to the polls, we'll be going to a polls as a government that has been focused on what matters to British Columbians. What matters to British Columbians, ensuring that young people get the training that they need, which is why we invest in the infrastructure projects that we do, Honourable Speaker, to ensure...
Member for South.
You know, if you ask the young pile driver that's been busy pounding piles on the Stevenson interchange, Honourable Speaker, the apprenticeship that's getting them a skill that's going to give them a career for the rest of their lives, Honourable Speaker, it's going really well, Honourable Speaker. When you're talking about the young iron worker apprentice that's working on the Patella Bridge, Honourable Speaker, that's learning the skills, that's going to give a career for a lifetime, Honourable Speaker, they're doing really well, Honourable Speaker. When you're talking about the electrician that's building the new hospital in Vancouver, Honourable Speaker, the hospital in Fort St. James, the hospital in Terrace, the hospitals right across the province, Honourable Speaker, they're doing really well, Honourable Speaker. Because I'll tell you something else, Honourable Speaker. When the leader of the opposition sat on this side of the House, they stripped the apprenticeship training, Honourable Speaker. They didn't care about youth, Honourable Speaker. They cut funding for adult education so that people could get the skills that they need, Honourable Speaker. We will go to an election on an agenda that's focused on investment and the people of this province, Honourable Speaker, which will ensure that we will on this side of the House and they will continue to dream from that side of the House.
The bell ends the question period.